Well, thank you for joining our UBC MM and B+MM alumni panel on healthcare and technology. I'm so excited to be joined by alumni from our B+MM and our MM cohorts. And my name is Jade Greer. I'm an associate recruiter with RHL, and I'm also an MM alumni myself, so I'm very close with some of the alumni that we have here today. So I'm very excited to chat with everyone and learn more about what their experience is like in the health and tech industry. I'll get started with a land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. I'd also like to acknowledge that you are joining us today from many places near and far, and to acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. And so for us here on the UBC campus, we're guests and are very grateful to be welcomed and be able to learn and work on this land. For today, we'll do a quick introduction of our guests, and then we'll go into Q&A with our panelists. In the room today, we have Joy Zhao, who is a business analyst with the Provincial Health Services Authority and is from the 2020 MM cohort. We have Amber Mallet, who is a merchant success manager at Shopify, also from the 2020 cohort. We're also joined by Arjun Duraswamy, who is a business development executive at Trulio. He is from the 2021 cohort. We have Bobby Serteski from Shopify, who is a support advisor, and also Seamus Menard, who is a project coordinator with the Provincial Health Services Authority at BC Renal, and also from the 2021 cohort. Our staff in the room today, we have myself, Jade Greer, Tamara Shantanova, and Teralyn Wong. All right, that is it for our introduction. We're going to jump right into our questions with the panelists. So to get started, I'd love for all of the panelists to tell us a little bit about yourself, your academic background, and where you're currently working. Amber, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll kick things off. Hey everyone, my name is Amber. I'm currently working as a merchant success manager at Shopify, as you would have just heard. I did my undergrad at USC. I studied international relations, so social sciences, and I went straight into the full-time Master of Management program thereafter.
Thank you. Arjun, would you like to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Arjun, and I also did my undergrad at UBC. I did an undergraduate in history and minored in law and society, and then I went straight into the full-time MM, where actually I was in the same class as Seamus and Jade, so it's great to see them here too.
Thank you, Arjun. And Joy?
Hi, everyone. I was in the same cohort as Amber. I came from UBC as well. I was in microbiology and immunology, so I had a Bachelor of Science. After my Master of Management, I went to Provincial Health. I'm currently working as a business analyst / a project manager.
Thank you. Bobby, please.
Yeah, so I also did my undergraduate at UBC. I did an interdisciplinary studies degree in psychology, creative writing, and visual arts. And then I went immediately into my Master's of Management, the BMM program, graduating in December 2020. And yeah, now I currently work at Shopify as a support advisor.
Thank you, Bobby. And Seamus?
So I did my undergraduate degree at UBC in kinesiology. And right after I graduated, I think it was 6 months later or so when the MM Classic started, I was happy to join that cohort. And right now I work as a project coordinator at BC Renal, which is a branch of PHSA.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. It's so interesting to see all the different types of educational backgrounds that everybody comes from. All right, so my next question for all of you is, why did you pursue the Master of Management program or the Bachelor plus Master of Management program? And why don't we start with you, Seamus?
Oh no, starting it off here. As I was going through my undergrad in kinesiology, I knew that I was interested in something healthcare related. I knew that I was really interested in health and I wanted to help people to live and lead healthy lives. I just didn't know what exactly that looked like. And as I went through my undergrad, I realized I didn't really want to do something clinical. I still wanted to help people and do something healthcare related, but clinical wasn't really the way I wanted to go. And during my undergrad, I started a small business, which has thankfully grown a little bit since then. So that kind of side hustle was my introduction into business. So as I was going through my undergrad, I got into about third year and I heard about the MM. And then I got into my fourth year and I was like thinking about it so much in my head. I was going through my fourth year. I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But then I for sure steered away from clinical, and then I decided to go into something more business related. So I'd say like my small business combined with knowing a couple people who went through the MM definitely like sparked my interest and like steered me in that direction.
As a follow-up question, I have to ask about your small business and what that is.
So we are a retailer, mainly e-commerce for paddle sports gear. So it's called Twin Paddle Sports. I started with my twin brother. So twin, yeah. Yeah, it's lots of fun. It's mostly like drop shipping and working our network and things like that in the paddling community, which we're already involved in. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Seamus. Joy, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I have a really similar story actually. I did my co-op in research and I found that I am definitely not a lab rat. Sorry, pun intended, but not really. But I thought, okay, I'm kind of a people's person, so I probably don't want to be stuck in behind a bench for the rest of my life. And I wasn't really sure what kind of research I wanted to go into for a PhD. So I thought a Master of Management would be a perfect pivot for me if I do want to utilize those business skills moving forward. Even if I do want to go back into research, I can still do so. Yeah, and I quite enjoyed it. I think it really opened my doors to not only sciences, but beyond. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Amber, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I would say the same. You know, my story is very similar to you guys too, but I was looking for more options. I studied international relations, as I mentioned, and I wasn't ready to go down the policy route. I knew that I wanted to work in a business-related field. I was working in sales actually for a SaaS startup during university. So I figured that I needed to kind of build up some soft skills and some hard skills as well, get a bit more technical. And MM was a way to kind of fast track to get to where I wanted to be in a year's time. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you, Amber. And you did your undergraduate in the US, so I'm curious also what brought you then to doing your master's in Canada.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one. I heard you all say, yeah, you went to UBC as well. I'm a dual citizen, so that definitely made things a bit easier. But I have some family out here, and I also just wanted to experience a new city that wasn't too far away. I just stayed on the West Coast and moved a bit further north.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Arjun?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, really similar to everyone else. I started off by really wanting to be in the sustainability industry. So I did an internship and I realized through that internship, obviously it was great to have the scientific background, but a lot of the core work I was doing required a lot of the soft business skills that everybody's mentioned so far. And that really got me interested in doing the MM. So I applied to it once I finished my undergrad. And through that, I just figured out, like the problem solving role isn't just limited to sustainability. There's also healthcare and tech. So I actually looked at both of those areas too. And the MM really did help me refine that, but it also helped me pick up a lot of those skills that I use every day at my job.
That's great to hear you're really using the skills that you learned in the MM program in your role.
Yeah,
thank you.
Literally every day.
Great. And Bobby?
Yeah, so when I was doing my undergrad at UBC, I actually joined an organization on campus called The Calendar. It's an event company. And with The Calendar, I was doing a lot of the event marketing, which I had never really done before, but I kind of like grew this love for it. And so I was kind of doing a lot of creative stuff within my undergrad, but I kind of wanted to marry that with the more business side of what I was doing at The Calendar. So I decided to pursue the BMM and kind of get the more business side that I could marry with my creative side. And yeah, that kind of led me to where I am now and trying to pursue kind of a role that's both creative and business mind together.
That's wonderful. And which year did you join the BMM program?
I joined, like, what year did I start it? I started it in 2019.
Okay, so you were in your third year?
Oh, sorry. Yes. So I started in my third year is actually 2017 that I started. Yep. And then 2019 was when I did the master's part of that.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, my next question for you all is how the program helped you prepare for the job market. So I know some of you touched on this a bit, but I'm curious, was there a particular conversation you had with Carly, the career coach at the BCC, or a particular course that was very fundamental in your journey in finding your job? And why don't we start with Amber?
Yeah, generally speaking, the MM gave me great context. And I feel like that helped me kind of level up right from the start, even though, of course, I didn't have much experience when I was beginning my first role. I really enjoyed the sales course with Elaine in particular, and the mock interviews as well, of course, were very helpful because we could actually, practice and, not be doing it for the first time when we're actually applying for these jobs. But the beauty of the MM is that everyone is there to support you and hold your hand through it. So, you can really just accomplish pretty much anything. And I just loved having that support.
Thank you. Arjun?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with Amber there. The beginning of that whole process, going into thinking I just want to be in sustainability and this is exactly what I want to do, and then having to refine that, I wouldn't have been able to do that without the support of the careers team. I mean, Carly was so clutch throughout the entire process. Where whenever I refined it, I'm like, oh well, let's look at this industry or that industry. Carly would not only just like send me postings, but she would also just be like, hey, if you're writing cover letter, swing it by me and like we'll figure out what the best approach could be for you. And we both figured out that the best approach was honestly writing as honest as I could. And I think that's what helped me get the role. I mean, it took me a while for sure, because I probably didn't do enough work on my own to refine things. I definitely just appreciated having Carly even beyond the program to talk to and to ask questions to, especially when I was getting a little bit more, annoyed with the whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and having that support with you, especially the personalized support from a career coach who really knows you and knows your goals. I mean, Carly, the career coach for the MM program, she'll help you figure out your right career path. Will connect you with alumni or other people who are working in those roles that you want. So helpful. All right, could we go to Joy next?
Yeah, I think I just probably will be echoing everyone here, but
Mm-hmm.
the MM program really made me comfortable in all the business terminology and the fields. And I think previously I was a little intimidated by everyone's various roles, and I wasn't even know what I didn't know, right? Like I didn't know what questions to ask and things like that. And something else that MM really helped me was to, apart from just the knowledge itself, it made me reflect on what I want to do and what my strengths are, like through the strength finder, the EQ tests and all that. Those are really helpful for me too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Bobby?
Yeah, similar to Joy, I think what really helped me the most was the strength finder and the EQ test. It was finding these strengths that like were kind of in me all along, but like I never really realized until we actually sat down and discussed them and put them into use. I think finding those have really helped me when I've been in job interviews and being able to identify where my strengths are and how these strengths could be played into the job role. I think that's probably how it prepared me the most, which is kind of surprising because going into it, I thought it was just I'm going to be learning like the hard business facts, but it was much more of an internal journey, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, as a follow-up question for you and Joy, do you remember what your top 3 strengths were, or what your top strength was?
I think my top, sorry, go ahead, Joy.
No, go ahead.
I think my top was empathy, and then activator, and I can't remember what my third was, to be honest. It's been some time.
Yeah, my first one stuck out like a sore thumb. I was an achiever. So true. I was also, I think, like a relator, and yeah, I think empathy was also in there somewhere. But yeah, achiever was the biggest one.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised by these, or did it make sense when you got the results?
I think it was just a revalidation of what I already knew, but I never really, sat down and thought about what my strengths are. And then that just kind of revalidated what I already know about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's so great.
I agree with that. It's something that like I kind of knew, but hearing it actually, like after taking a test and seeing like this is your strengths, it's like it validates and it makes you think about more how you can play into those strengths rather than just like kind of knowing you have them.
Definitely. Okay, Seamus, would you like to answer the next question?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with Bobby and with Joy about the strength finder, but don't ask me to repeat my top three because I do not remember them. I'm actually so impressed you guys remember even one of them. I think one of them was self-awareness or something. But yeah, for me, the biggest thing, I came into the program kind of the opposite of Arjun, in that Arjun was like, I want to do sustainability. For me, I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. Like, healthcare is like my thing, but what does that really mean? And what are the different opportunities within healthcare? Because there's so much. But having so many different types of courses, like diversity of learning opportunities and different skills that you learn, definitely helped me to figure out, I guess, a process of elimination, in that I would take a course and I would be like, okay, I don't want to do this. I'll take another one and be like, okay, I don't want to do this. And then one will come up, I would be like, oh, I love this course. And that would just kind of like, yeah. So I guess I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do until the end of the program, because I almost wanted to see what else there was to learn and to know. Yeah, so I didn't want to rule anything out until I got to the very end.
Mm-hmm. And this is a question for anyone who'd like to add, but what were your favorite courses in the MM program, and what was sort of the course that really validated the type of career you wanted to go into?
I mentioned one earlier, but I'll add to it. I really liked the sales course that we did, the sales development one. I also loved the marketing courses and project management too, because, well, you'll use that in any role that you go into.
Yeah, I also really like the sales course, and of course the marketing course was one of my favorites. I really loved like the investigation into different companies that we would do.
All right. Sorry, Arjun, it looked like you were just about to speak.
Yeah, I was trying to find my unmute button. Sorry. Yeah, definitely agree. I think they changed the name for the sales development course to business development, which is interesting because now, being business development, I realize how different the two things are, but there's a lot of skills that cross over. So I'm constantly referencing that class. Obviously, I like the sustainability one for pretty obvious reasons, but I love the case studies and how you were developing arguments constantly through that. And I really enjoyed the data analytics class. I thought that was a really cool touch to understand the back end of things. And I think I definitely referenced that whenever I'm reading through an API log, I'm trying to find something online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if I can jump in too, I think marketing was probably the biggest one for me. That was in our first term in the MM Classic. And we had Tim Silk. I don't know if anybody else had Tim Silk, but he was so great because he was so passionate, and he was he was great. He was great. I loved him. And he said one thing that stuck with me. It was it doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the customers think. And he kept like bringing it back to that. And I think that was a really important lesson.
Well,
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, I'll just add supply chain was really cool for me. Like we did a lot of cases. And there was one more finance. I had no idea how stocks worked, but Glenn.
Great. I want to jump in because I forgot to mention one. The negotiations class was by far like top tier. Every day it was like a game. You just like, you get a prompt and you pick someone and you just negotiate, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so fun to hear back all of the different types of courses you learn such a variety of knowledge in the program, and some stuff really sticks with you for the rest of your life. That's really wonderful. Okay, next I wanted to get into sort of the core subject of the panel, which is tech and healthcare. To start with, those of you who are in tech, I'm curious if you could share some insights into your chosen career field and what you've learned so far working in this field, and the types of opportunities that you think are available to other BMM and MM graduates. And why don't we start with Arjun in tech?
Putting screws on me really early. I think the biggest thing about being in tech is you really learn how to use your degree. I mean, your degree goes by so quick. Each term is like a month long, and you're like absorbing a lot of information constantly. But tech is almost exactly like that because everything changes so quickly. Everything's developing so quickly. It takes you back to that saying you always hear when you're going into business or anything really, like the rate of change has never been this slow, never been this fast, but it's never going to be this slow again. And it really holds true to your job. It teaches you to be adaptable. It teaches you to kind of like not like embed any ideas into your like subconscious. It goes back to what Tim says too. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is always staying open to new ideas, open to new developments, look out for news, and like kind of always consistently learning. I'm sorry to say you're not going to stop learning after the MM, but you're not going to be tested as much. So that's a good thing. And yeah, beyond that, I think in terms of opportunities, because tech is changing so much, there's always going to be new kinds of roles coming up. Customer success roles are huge all across the industry. And they're amazing roles where you're combining all sorts of business skills with customer facing skills. Roles in business development, I think, are really going to shoot up depending on what industry you go into, just because you just need somebody who's outward facing developing contracts. And that's just talking about the business end. If you're looking at the data end of things and the tech end of things and product development, that's always going to be there. So in terms of looking at that as a problem solving role, yeah, it's always going to keep growing. Sorry.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for the insight, Arjun. That's really helpful. I'm sure will be very helpful for prospective and admitted students who are going into the MM program who are interested in those types of roles. So thank you. Amber, would you like to go next?
Yeah, well, I work in merchant success now, customer success, in other words. And this was a field that I didn't really know too much about. It is, of course, relatively new, but it wasn't talked about as much as the other roles you hear about in sales or working in finance, any of those other functions. So I had to do a ton of research, and my first role was as a CSM. And this is a great opportunity for anybody who doesn't have a particularly technical background, which I think probably is the majority of people we're speaking to today, maybe have an interest in the MM. So that's why it was perfect for me. And I think that this is going to continue to grow as well. Companies are always looking for people within customer success. And Bobby can attest to this too, because he's also at Shopify, but we're constantly learning new things. There's always something around the corner, and the MM really just teaches you how to study and how to, be receptive of all of these new things. So that's how it helped me.
Thank you, Amber. And Bobby.
Yeah, I'm going to be echoing a lot of what's been said already, but in tech, everything is so fast moving. There's constantly updates. It feels like every week there's something new. There's new goals that you're trying to hit. There's new features that are being released. So it's a lot of constant learning. Like Amber said, we're constantly like being provided. There's courses that we have to take within our job to make sure that we're staying on top of updates and know about the latest features and how to support our merchants with those features, how to grow their business. So yeah, it's a lot of leaning on your resources, but also leaning on things that we learned within MM. Not just the hard skills we learned within the MM, but the work ethic we learned within MM, because it is so work heavy and there's always so many things you are juggling. You really learn to lean on your peers and how to take on a large load and be able to work through it. So that's something that I've definitely used within my career quite a bit, is being able to break things down and work on it in pieces while still keeping on track.
Thank you for sharing that. And I see there was a comment in the chat with somebody who works with you about also your very strong negotiation skills that you use in the workplace. So I'm glad to hear there was many relevant aspects of the MM program. Okay, we do have a question that was in the chat, which Arjun did answer, but I'd like to bring it up in the group since we're talking about tech, which is how the data analytics course, what were the programming languages used in that course? And if anyone wanted to give some more insight into that course. Maybe Arjun, want to take that one?
I should have answered it right away. So we used Python and we went all the way up to an intermediate level. And what I really liked about that course is it doesn't just, teach you to code and teach you how to, run data analysis, but it also teaches you about like that intermediate world of coding So it teaches you about APIs, how APIs work, how you can leverage an API. Spoiler alert, one of the projects involves an API. And I really liked it. It's something that like I look back on now and I think I got my job because I was experienced enough to actually understand what was happening with an API. But they also teach you the lingo around tech. So if you are looking to go into the tech industry, really any industry that has, digitalized assets, digitalized programs, you do learn a lot about, the base level of interfaces, UI, UX, design. A lot of those things come up in the course. And with that course, you also get access to data camp. It's a data camp. And the cool thing is you also can extend it with the program. So even if you're outside of those courses, which I'm not sure if you'll get a lot of time, but if you're interested, you do get extended access to data camp, which is pretty cool. So you can play around and learn some more things and get them about your knowledge. I just loved it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Arjun. And with Data Camp, you actually do get sort of a certification that says you did beginner Python or intermediate Python. So it's great. That's something you can share on your resume and on your LinkedIn profile. So definitely an asset when applying for jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's switch gears over to the healthcare field. Joy and Seamus, if you could share some insights into your chosen career field, and we could start with Joy.
Yeah, I actually sit in the IT department, so I kind of straddle between tech and healthcare. I think it's very interesting. Some courses I just thought of that is pretty helpful is or like HR. I think it's called like organizational change or something like that. Just because my role as like project management, I interact with a lot of internal stakeholders, and there's a lot of challenges. A lot of pushback sometimes, a lot of hurdles, but then you do recall, oh, okay, so that's the concept that was taught in class, and now I see it in practice. Another one that obviously project management, you really realize the importance of buffer. You need so much buffer in all of your projects in order for them to work, right? So yeah, happy to take any questions about healthcare, but I'll pass it off to Seamus.
Yeah, thanks, Joy, for getting us started there. For me, I guess tagging back onto what Bobby was saying earlier about the program being like very hectic and like very busy and you're always doing things. I looked back at my calendar like a few weeks ago, and I looked at my calendar during the MM and it was like all these boxes, so much going on, and now it's just like 9 to 5. So it's nice, being in the working world. But I found going from the MM things being very busy and doing a lot and learning a lot. I'm still learning a lot in the role I am now, but I guess I can only speak for my branch of PHSA, but things move slow in healthcare, and change management can be a little bit tough to push along when you're working with I guess I should be careful what I'm saying here, but things do move a little bit slow. So change management is important, and communication and those OB topics definitely come into play, like Joy was saying.
Yeah, for sure. I actually took the co-op program after the MM, so I was dabbling in startup for a while before I went into PHSA, and that difference in the speed of doing things was so shocking. My days are actually filled with meetings. I'm not sure about you, Seamus, but I just have back-to-back meetings about trying to push things through, and it would still be very slow. I had to go through layers and layers of approval, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. Thanks for adding on to that, Joy. I think there's a reason why there's a lot of like communication in healthcare as well, though. And this is one thing I've learned as I've done this role more, is that at least for my project that I'm working on right now, it's very clinical in its application. So it's like changing the structure of like how nurses actually do their job and how the work is managed. So the change needs to run through a lot of people who are clinicians, like nurses, technicians, nurse trainers, and doctors. Like a lot of the calls that I'm in and that I'm working in, there's like a lot of physicians in the calls, so things have to move slow because you have to make sure you do it right, because you're working with lives there, right? It's important decisions. But yeah.
Thank you, Seamus and Joy. So this question some of you have alluded to, but I'm curious what a day in the life is like in your role. And this was also a question brought up in the Q&A there. So if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to submit them to the box. But why don't we start with you, Amber?
Sure, yeah. So day in the life is centered around our merchants or your customers. So Yeah, primarily it's prepping for calls and then having those calls with the merchants, researching different topics that they might be inquiring about. As a merchant success manager, we're there to give strategic guidance to help them essentially grow their business. So in any area that they have interest in, if they need to boost their conversion, for example, of their site, that might be something we'll be able to help with. We also have team meetings, but definitely not as many, I'm imagining, as you mentioned, Joy. But that's pretty much, the day in the life, I would say, for an MSM.
Thank you. Arjun?
Yeah, it really depends week to week. Some weeks are crazy busy, some weeks aren't, but the day-to-day is pretty similar to Amber's. There's team meetings, there's prepping for customer meetings. Then on occasion, if I'm in the office, sometimes there's competitive ping pong games, which are always fun. But beyond that, I also do have to blanking, but a lot of it is prospecting and finding new opportunities. So it's exploring opportunities in different regions, changing your Google settings so you can Google different areas, trying to read through technical documents and understand the context of the different markets that you're trying to work in, so that you can reach out in the most respectful way and most informed way possible. So it's really doing a lot of background work to prep for a lot of calls and hopefully opportunities to develop some partnerships.
Thank you, Arjun. Bobby, would you like to go next?
Sure, yeah. So similar to kind of what Amber said, the majority of my day is spent speaking with merchants, just helping them grow their business, working with them with any issues they're having with their store, helping them, whether it's marketing or conversions, kind of similar to what Amber said. Of course, every now and then throughout the week, we have some meetings sprinkled in. And then a great part about Shopify is that they're really dedicated to your personal growth. So they have time, they dedicate time within your schedule to just work on professional development, which you can put towards whatever you want, whether it's learning a new skill or researching what career path you want to follow and what skills you're going to take to learn in order to reach that goal. So that's kind of nice to have being built into your day as well.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Yeah, that's
actually, just to add on there, I had my professional development day yesterday and took an SEO course on HubSpot. So yeah, it's super cool that we have the flexibility to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And Seamus, did you have anything to add about what a day is like in your life?
Yeah, I guess adding on about the training and career development stuff. Right now, I'm doing a course that my company is paying for, which is great. I'm learning how to use Jira. So I'm learning to be a Jira project administrator. So going through the certification process this week. Yeah, which is lots of fun. And my managers are very supportive over allocating time towards learning and things like that. I would say, I would suspect that Joe would have more meetings than I would, being a project manager. I'm doing a little bit more the hands-on work, so I touch base with my managers, and then I only spend maybe an hour a day in meetings.
Ooh, lucky.
Yeah.
I have at least 4 or 5 meetings a day. Worst days are probably 8 to 10 meetings a day. It can get really bad. But I would say that my days are also client focused, because we are the IT backbone of BC Health, meaning our clients are Interior Health, Island Health, Fraser Health, Vancouver Coastal, so all those. So more often than not, I'd be interacting with the IT department on that side as well. And then my other part-time job is so the client side is my BA role, and then my PM stuff is for internal. So my internal meetings are with managers, directors, to help to push things along, make sure they're following up on their action items like that. Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks, everyone. I love hearing about what a day is like in your life. We have another question from the audience from Beverly, and it is, what was your journey like finding a job after graduation? And actually, how did you prep during the MM program for finding a job and for interviews? And let's start with Amber again.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but the mock interviews helped me a lot. just making sure that you get all of the simple things like your resume, your cover letter, all of that squared away so that you can really shine once you have the opportunity to actually speak to somebody at the company that you're interested in. Also, of course, lots and lots of coffee chats. So that was a great way for me to just meet people in a bunch of different industries. I wasn't 100% sure what industry I wanted to work in at the time, so I just met with people in every single one. And I think that helped me gain confidence, and yeah, helped me just like build out some other like skills, I would say. Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, what helped me. Yeah.
I was muted. One of the assignments for the career development course is to have 3 different coffee chats. And so that's a really helpful sort of push into getting comfortable networking and is definitely very helpful in finding a job after graduation. Can we go to Bobby next?
Sure, yeah. So my journey was probably a little abnormal. I graduated from the MM program in December 2019, and I didn't immediately rush to get a job. I wanted to like a little breather between the MM and starting a new job. So I took about a month and a half or so before I kind of started interviewing. I was in kind of final stages of a few different interviews when COVID hit, and I had a few offers kind of withdrawn. And then over the course of 2020, I think I submitted around like 250 applications and did something like close to 50 interviews. So I definitely improved my interview skills quite a bit over the course of the year. It was a very tough year, to be honest, but I think it was very beneficial because, like I said, I was getting those skills. I was talking to a lot of different companies. I was kind of trying to narrow down where exactly I wanted to go. At the same time, I was very open because I was just kind of wanting to get a job. It wasn't until around January 2021 where I interviewed with Shopify and ended up getting a job. So yeah, I was very grateful at that point. But yeah, like I said, looking back, at least I was able to like really grow my interview skills from it.
Yes, the graduates of the last few years really had a whole other challenge in graduating into a pandemic. So it's really impressive how successful all of you have been. So congratulations to all of you for your wonderful jobs. And let's go to Seamus next.
Yeah, I guess I was very slow coming out of graduation. So I took 3 months off because we graduated on like the end of July. So like all of August for me was I'm going camping. I'm going to the backcountry. That's it. September was I'm going camping again. October was still a little bit of camping. But so I did a lot of coffee chats in that time. And then in like November and December. And I messaged people for like on LinkedIn. I got the 1 month, the free like LinkedIn Pro, and I just like randomly messaged people. And yeah, having those coffee chats was definitely helpful. And the biggest thing that I learned for coffee chats is, again, like it is helpful to learn about their job and what they're doing. But I think the most important thing is developing that connection, that relationship, so you can actually like leverage that again in the future if you need it. And then like I had one person who I randomly messaged who I had no mutual connections with on LinkedIn. I messaged him, we chatted for like, I said, we're going to chat for 20 minutes. He stayed on the call with me for like 40 minutes. And he gave me an internal reference after that. And so things like that, just like, yeah, it just helps so much in the job search. And yeah, there's lots of good people out there. You just got to randomly message them sometimes.
Thank you, Seamus. Arjun, anything to add?
Yeah, I can talk about it for sure. I like I said, like I had to refine my focus a lot because it was maybe a little bit too narrow at the beginning. So I did spend a lot of time doing research on different industries where you are in the problem solving capacity. Also refining my own interest to see if that was an area I could go for a bit, really into sports, really into like the music industry. So looking at record labels, looking at some sports teams around Vancouver and other areas. And that really gave me an idea of what kind of roles were out there. So I kept, developing a sense of what's happening, what kind of roles are out there, what kind of roles are being hired for right now. And albeit I probably didn't do as much work as I probably should have. So out of the program, I was starting to job search pretty seriously. And I found a few different sales roles and business development roles, and that kind of really got me looking at sales and sorry, not sales, health and tech as roles, and then reaching out and like even putting out to my network that I was looking for a role really helped people reach out and say like, hey, what kind of roles are you interested in? Let's just chat. Let's just talk about what I'm doing here and see if that's something that can interest you. And that was so helpful because at times I'm sure everybody can relate, but the job searching process can really feel like isolating and lonely. So just being able to have people to reach out to you and have people that are willing to listen to you, listen to what kind of skills you bring in really does help. And yeah, like everyone's mentioned already, just the resources that I had already, and Carly just being available even after the program was so helpful. And I was lucky that my parents, I could wake them up at 1 a.m. and say, hey, I got an interview tomorrow. Really worried. Do you guys want to run through a mock interview with me? And they would be willing to do that with me. So I was pretty grateful for that. And like Bobby, I applied to a lot of roles in a very short amount of time and was lucky enough to get a lot of interviews. So that was really a trial by fire. You just pick up a lot of things really quickly about interviews, and it helped me refine my approach. And I think that's what.
Thank you for sharing that, Arjun. Enjoy.
Yeah, I think I'll just piggyback on everyone's comment about coffee chats. I think most people who you reach out to have gone through coffee chats themselves. So they know how challenging job finding is and how much work you put in just to reach out, and that confidence you need to build in order to reach out to people. So everyone's willing to help, but just make sure you do your research in advance. Don't walk into a coffee chat unprepared. And also, I think RHL hosts a lot of great events. So attend those events and make sure you network during those events, be genuine, just be friendly, be open to having conversations.
That's great advice. Thank you, Joy. Okay, we have some more questions from the audience. The next one is, what was your favorite aspect of the MM and B+MM program? And I'll just see if any of you want to tackle that first.
I can start if that's okay. My favorite memory was the trip that we did to Toronto, actually. Joy, yeah, I see you nodding. And that was a really cool experience because we were able to, on the topic of coffee chats, set those up there and really just get a feel for the city. We toured at a company and yeah, it really just kind of opened my eyes to what's out there. And it really helped push me as well to just be comfortable reaching out to folks and networking in a very just genuine way. So that was a highlight for me. It was right before COVID too. I think it was February, mid-February. Yeah. 2020. Yeah.
Bobby, I see. Did you want to share anything?
Yeah. So going into the MM, my friends in the cohort before me, what they told me is that you're gonna really your peers are gonna become your family, just because you are spending so much time with them. You're all in it together, and I thought that could not be more true. It's something that I didn't really expect, even after hearing it, but the amount of time that you spend together when you're in the MM working on projects, whether it's a team project or an individual project that you're just helping each other out on, you become really close with your peers, which is really great for it's networking, because there's all these different people with different backgrounds coming from different degrees, and they're coming into the program together, and they're also leaving in separate ways, going into different industries. So just having that network is so fundamental, I think, in building wherever you want to go in the future. You have this built-in network that can help you. So I found that to be one of the most rewarding things. Just the relationships I made along the way, just on top of what I learned, was unexpected and great.
Yeah, would anyone else like to share their favorite part of the MM program?
I think Bobby hit the nail on that. The people are just fantastic. And the relationships go on for a lifetime. I haven't seen Seamus and Jaden in months, and just being able to be here just goes to here again. So it just goes a long way.
Okay, I have one more question for you all, which is if you could share any advice for incoming MM and B+MM students. And why don't we start with you, Joy? Yes.
Okay. I was just going to say, really take advantage of this program. Go to class prepared. I know the classes are really intense, but make sure you do your readings and learn everything you can like a sponge. And then after the classes, don't just think, got to do exams and do the assignments. Take advantage of all the RHL opportunities, the coaching, the events, like the trips that might be offered, like the Toronto trip. Just really take advantage of that, and also like build your network. So when you're in the program, really immerse yourself and do your best in it.
Thank you, Joy. Seamus?
Yeah, I think just to add on to what Joy was saying, I guess echoing, one thing that I heard is that you get out what you put in. So I think once you're in the MM, obviously there's a hurdle for getting into the MM because it's competitive. But once you're in it, you can choose to like cruise, and like you can graduate probably, you can just like cruise and make it, but you probably won't learn a lot. And so if you really want to be successful, then putting in the work and like learning as much as you can and developing your network and all those things, that's what's going to get you a job. It's not just like the title on your resume, as good as it might look. It's also about like learning and putting in the work to learn.
That's great advice. Thank you, Seamus. And Bobby?
Yeah, I'm going to be echoing a lot here, but really take advantage of everything the program has to offer. One regret that I have is that I didn't take advantage quite as much of all the events that were happening because there were so many. It seems like every week there's some sort of networking event or something that the RHL is putting on. And it's easy to be exhausted from classes and the work you have and just say, oh, I'm going to skip it because it isn't mandatory. But I would say, like, if you can muster up the energy to, do go to those because they are really beneficial. And yeah, don't forget to have some fun while you're in it. The MM program can be quite exhausting. It's very work intensive, but if you're completely work minded and don't separate some time for yourself and to do what makes you happy, you're going to burn out. So it really is that balance and being able to not just be solely focused on work, but take some time for yourself along the way as well.
That's great advice. Arjun?
Yeah, I mean, all the advice you're getting is pretty great. So I'm just going to add one thing, which is something I should have done. But if you can take 2 hours out of every week, and if not in one shot, but like, maybe 5-10 minutes per day or something like that, to, just look up jobs on LinkedIn, look up the other job search engines that are out there and just understand what's happening in the market. I think that builds up a lot of understanding. And maybe also gives you an opportunity to like practice some of the things you're doing in career development class, which I know is easy to say when you're out of the program and you wish you did it because there's so much going on. But like, if I feel like if there's one thing I changed about my experience, it was just the ability to understand the market a little bit more and to take some of the things that I ended up doing my job search months after the program, during the program itself, so that I built up that confidence and I was able to find a way to do what I ended up doing. But,
Thank you. And Amber, final word of advice for everyone.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a year of growth for you. So I think what's important is just to be present. Take your time. Don't be too hard on yourself. You can change your mind throughout the program. I know I definitely did, and everything is fine. And yeah, I would just enjoy it while you're there because it goes by quickly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much to all the wonderful panelists. It was so wonderful to hear about your industries, how the MM program helped you in your job search, and to just hear you reflecting on the program after a year or so. It's been really wonderful, and I know the audience has appreciated it as well. So thank you so much.